morning, everybody. Thank you for joining our panel, The Importance of a Work-Life Balance. I'm joined, obviously, by some wonderful people from, obviously, different industries, just different areas of the business world, let's say. We've got one mic here, one mic there, so we'll do a bit of sharing. Okay. I'm just going to kick off a bit of an open question. So, Gareth, I'll start with you. What is work-life balance to you?
Work-life balance to me. It's okay to not be okay. It's something, a phrase that we hear time and time again, but it is actually okay to not be okay. So within business, my name's Gareth Jones, Managing Director of a family business called In-Comm Training and Business Services. What I'm about to tell you now probably happened within the space of 12, 18 months, but it's a bit of a journey that I hope you'll find interesting. So we were growing the business from 24 people to 75 people, from 900,000 turnover to 5 million, happening quite quick. We got £8 million invested from investors, stakeholders into the business, so you can imagine the pressure that we were under there. Then COVID hit, and I think we all know what was happening during that. So that's a bit of a piece about work, a little piece about home life. Because if you're not okay, it does affect you personally and professionally. There's no two ways about it. So during that period, my father died out of the blue. 6 weeks later, my sister's husband died out of the blue, left her with 2 children. Both obviously were still working in the family business. I was doing something else at that period of time. Also in the background at the time, I was going through, with my wife, 3 bouts of IVF, lost a baby boy at the age of 16 weeks, which you can imagine was a very emotional time. And at that point, that was just the tip of the iceberg of what was going on in my life. And then you counteract that with my own mental health that had been building up over a period of time, and a lack of self-compassion, a lack of routine, trying to be everything to everybody, and everything that I've just described. Where was me in all of that scenario? And me is very important, to be able to give back to others if you can't give to yourself. So the crescendo sort of happened where I was fortunate enough to, I had a close friend who took me to support services, and I ended up spending 3 weeks in a mental health hospital in a priory. And literally that was time. And at the time I was really afraid, because I knew I should have probably done it 12, 18 months earlier. But I was scared of stigma, judgmental, not just on myself, but trying to protect the 75 members of staff, let alone the judgment on my family. But it got to a point where I was literally taken to support services. And during that three-week period, it was like you've got a line of burning matches and you take one out. It literally, the world just stopped. Isolation, time for myself, time to rebuild. I'm a very driven individual, so I literally spent a lot of time and rebuilt everything from ground zero. So routine is first and foremost. Self-compassion is another one. Living to your values. What are your values? And actually living to those core values. And spending time, so like now, I train every morning because physical health is just as important as mental health. I journal twice a day to try and process thoughts and feelings of what I'm going into the day and what I've experienced from the day. So taking that time out and giving yourself an atomic habits, if anybody's ever heard that, the little things, and then you start habit stacking, make a massive difference. And you know, some days I'd be working at like 3 a.m. in the morning, 4 a.m. in the morning. I just got absolutely no structure to my life. Now my emails go off at 6 o'clock and they don't go on till 7 o'clock the next morning. So these little things can make a massive impact. But the overall thing, if you don't get yourself right, you're risking your personal life and your professional life and everybody in it. Self is so important.
Me? Hi, everyone. Good to be here. Thanks, Emma. Work-life balance. It's difficult, I would say. I'm certainly sort of reflecting on my own career, personally have probably got the balance out of kilter for a big chunk of my career, and kind of really, you know, focused on work, maybe to the detriment of myself or family and relationships. I think as you as I've gotten older, certainly from a personal point of view, it's become more about being there for loved ones, friends, family in particular. I've got 2 young boys, so it's making sure you are there for those key moments. I was at a school play last week, and when you see that moment where your child picks you out in the audience and the sort of smile lights up, you go, that is absolutely priceless. And you think, well, I'm glad I made that ability to be there for them, because those are memories that stay with your children forever, and you kind of don't want to be the absent chair. And I think that I've sort of become more and more aware of that. And then yourself as well, as Gareth just said, trying to find time for health, mental health, physical health can be difficult. I sort of do okay-ish, but could always be down the gym a little bit more. And I think, from a professional point of view, again, experience helps you when you're leading to understand your people. And for me, it's about communication. It's about talking to people. It's about trying to understand everyone's own circumstances and have that open door so you can understand what they're going through, what they need in that balance, and how can you flex work, the role, to accommodate that. Because ultimately, when you're leading a business, it's about talent retention and talent acquisition. You need great people around you. And I think if you can understand your people and get to know them really, really well on a personal level, then you can flex it far more. It's probably easier in a smaller business. As you get bigger and bigger into big corporates, it gets harder. But I think as a leader, you've got to cascade those attributes down to your senior team so that they're making sure that they're doing the same, and it sort of works its way through the business. So yeah, it is difficult though. It's why it's such an interesting topic, because, how do you get it right? I'm looking forward to finding out.
Just to talk about, I guess, a little bit of my own experience, and with AllinAll, I run AllinAll events. We're a small team of 5 brilliant people, but I always find work-life balance is different for everyone, ultimately. If people were to look at what I do as a work-life balance, they'd think I was crazy, but it seems to work okay-ish for me at times. But it's about finding what works for you, especially from a leadership point of view. We've obviously got to support our teams as well as ourselves, as well as everything else around us, let's say. And what I've done within the business, I think it's testament to what you just said about listening to the people that you have within the business. We created new structures that enabled us to have specific days that were in the office. Other days are kind of, you can work from home or go to the office if you would like to. It gives that flexibility to accommodate that work-life balance, to hopefully create, a framework for us that befits all in a way. So within those 2 specific days, we've got to figure out our lives between it, whether it be childcare, school runs, dog sitter, whatever that may be. It gives us that structure, which we find helps with our productivity. And also I find with my team, and almost I'm saying this and they'll hear me, I hope it makes them feel as well that their, input is valued into what they need to be able to work better. What I'm also seeing is, probably from COVID more so, and I'll bring obviously Afiya in here at this point as well, which I think would be good, is I'm seeing more from a team member point of view, they're more vocal on what they need or to help them, which is brilliant, because without them communicating, how are we also going to know, really? We're going to just think, we think that's right, but unless they vocalise the support they need or the structure that they need, it's that work culture. Obviously, Afiya, you're a top employment law barrister at number 5. So just from, that input from, the employer point of view, what do we, from a top level type of thing, what do we need to make sure from a work-life balance that we're implementing? Are we doing the right things, or what do we need to be doing more of? Is it that encouragement of the communication or new structures to trial and try it? It'd be good to just get your input on what legally we need to be doing.
Yeah, so great question. And I just to echo my fellow panelists, work-life balance is so important. It's not just about not being burnt out. It's actually about thriving both personally and professionally. from an employer's point of view, there's nothing in the law that codifies work-life balance, but there are things that ensure that there is work-life balance in the workplace. So employees, unless they opt out, can't work more than 48 hours a week. Employers are required to make reasonable adjustments if they are asked. And so for the employer, I would say it's about having that open dialogue, having that conversation, and then planning through what the employer wants, what the employee wants, and tailoring it to them. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing. And actually, I find that when you have the conversation and people feel like they're being heard, you can make significant progress. A lot of the issues arise when people think they're dealing with something in isolation. They feel like they are going through something. It could be something at home. It's affecting their productivity in the workplace. And actually, if they can just come in slightly later and then finish slightly later, that could resolve all the problems. And so I'd say have the open dialogue. It's about reasonable adjustments. So what the law does not require you to do is overstretch and have to put in a lot of resource when it's not cost effective to do so. But I'd have the conversation, see if you can reach a compromise with the employee, and then look at the way forward.
Brilliant, thank you. Charlie, I'd come to you if I can, please. Yeah. Obviously, male chief exec of the wonderful Intercity. From an employer point of view, obviously we've seen a huge shift from COVID of the people of needing the flexibility and a bit more of a balance with their work-life balance. Have you seen this within, obviously, Intercity? Have you put new structures in place? Is there different structures to suit different people? Just good to hear from your side what have you done.
Just coming back to to answer that fully, I think what's really important, we always talk about work-life balance as if it's about getting more home life into our life, which is absolutely spot on, because the business benefits from that. And we don't often talk about that. We always think that home benefits from that. But I know in my own life, and today's really important to me, I've got 2 daughters growing up, and having worked away for much of my career, I probably missed too much of my 2 little girls growing up, and they're now 26 and 20. And I felt guilty, probably, and still do sometimes, throughout my whole career, for either not being at work or not seeing my daughters too much. And now I have a brilliant balance, and seeing my girls all the time is fantastic. But the wisdom I get from my wife and my 2 daughters brings back some for me, a good levelness when I get back into work. So I think that's really important. And then as a leader, COVID changed the dynamic about work. When I was at BAE Systems prior to joining Intercity, presenteeism was a big thing. It was great to be last in the office. It was great to be first in the office. I was almost measured on being at my desk and being, the last one to turn the lights off. I'm delighted that's gone now. Equally, having gone the pendulum the other way, which was a unique time in our lifetime, was COVID. Being at home full time brought its own challenges, both for individuals, families, and the business. So it's really important to try and get that balance. At Intercity, we've not rushed into that. We've almost let the colleagues let it evolve. And I'm a firm believer that you feel the vibe, you get that right. We had a 2-day working in the office. We've increased that to 3. But that's just about, it's not 3 days rigid. It's 3 days to suit people. Not forgetting we've got a business to run. But equally, what I want is creating an atmosphere where our colleagues feel valued, they feel empowered, they can make that choice. And as I said, I've seen both in, an analogy Paul will get, but in sport, if you're a footballer, you play really well when your home life is in good shape. You've got no worries, you've got no concerns, no distractions, and you're quite calm going into it. It's the same with business. And I'm a firm believer, both male and female, it's my job to lead by example, to give our colleagues that opportunity to feel absolutely bang on that it's great to be having a home life. And also, as a leader, I like to include our families in the business. So I think that's really important too. So they feel part of the fabric as well.
Oh, brilliant. Paul, can I ask that same question to you? Obviously, you've had a fantastic career, but obviously we've talked about it a number of times from your sport background and the peaks and troughs of the sporting calendar, let's say. what did you kind of implement, or was it looked from a work-life balance point of view, or I guess things that came to you when you were in that arena?
I mean, you know, from the back of house team, you've got to get the job done. So say, for example, Aston Villa this week, they've played 3 home games in 8 days, played Saturday, Wednesday night and Saturday evening. And so for the team, and that's sort of, well, my day would have been about 300-400 people, plus the match day staff, so another sort of 1,500. You've got to go and work then. You know, that's the job. We've got 25, 26 home games in a year. And so I suppose that could be seen as impinging on traditional, you know, weekend time or evening time, but that's a job. It's the same if you're in the army, same if you're working in the NHS, same with lots and lots of industries, isn't it? For me, it isn't about flexibility. It's about understanding. It's about, we had obviously time off in lieu. It's trying to be smart about what works for you to do your job, to also get that balance with home and to have that time back. And that may be on a Monday or maybe on a Friday, maybe sort of slightly atypical. But what you've got to be is flexible and nimble and listen to people and try. It wasn't one size fits all, I found. It was actually, though, about, as a leader, spending the time, making the time to care about what people were saying and trying to adapt accordingly to as many people as you could. It wouldn't necessarily be so individualized, but you know, the more you listened, the more you found like we can do that. That's fine for that. And sometimes just being really flexible and being a bit ad hoc, you know, being a bit off the cuff, trusting yourself as a leader to go, that's fine, you look knackered. Take a couple of days. Just go and do it. Oh, I can't, I've got too much on. Just go and do it. And that's really powerful when you're a leader to tell people that, to show them that example.
Another point along the way here as well, if I could just bring it back to an emotional level again, because we talk about the amount of time, you know, that we're either working or we're at home. What about the emotional barrier of transitioning from work to home life as well? Because as seniors leaders or people within a business, when you walk through that front door, if you bring the raft of baggage that you've had from such a bad day into your home life, you're then affecting your personal and the people that you're around, that you love and care for the most. And then it starts breeding like a little cancerous element into your home life. So I think as leaders and people in work as well, you've got to be able to find a mechanism of being mindful and being able to strip yourself of that emotion from leaving work and coming into home life to actually be present and enjoy that element of your life as well.
That's a brilliant point, Gareth. I've got a little tip that I had. It's called a tripwire. And when I used to work away from home, very often I'd land and I'd drive to my home. I'd been away for a week. My 2 girls were only little then. And I'd get home on a Friday and my 2 daughters, I get emotional, but my 2 daughters were at the window waiting to see Dad. They hadn't seen him for a week. God, can't wait. I was still on my phone. I was unpacking my car. I was still on the phone. I was standing on the drive. I was still on my phone. And my 2 little girls, the moment they had of seeing their dad, I was still on the drive for 5 minutes finishing a phone call or in my car. And it was totally wrong. And I'd get in, and of course they then found off and they were watching their videos or playing with their toys. And not only did they miss the moment, I'd miss the moment. So I learnt a little lesson. And that was, and it's worth us all thinking about this, but when you get home, I used to pass a red post box. And that was the time I switched off my phone, no matter what I'd got to do, because I wanted the moment with my 2 little girls when I walked through that door. And as a dad, those 2 jumping on top of me and us having a hug was probably the best few moments of my week. And I was missing them for a phone call that I could have done on Monday. And actually, when I look back, what the hell was I doing? You know? So I just, it's a little tip I had, Gareth, that I've learned, and I still do it.
Bring back to you, Gareth, if I can. As a male leader, obviously from linking back to your own experiences and the build of it was a big family business anyway, but an even bigger one now. How do you, or have you as well, examples, supported women in their strive for a work-life balance?
Yes, I think first and foremost, I feel privileged to have a family business. It's got its own challenges, but it means that we can be dynamic in our approach. And we're very We're culturally sound. So over the decades, like, there's just been a lot of good people in the business. So now we've got 75 staff, and you've got 75 individual needs and wants. And I can almost guarantee we've got different working mechanisms for almost, I'd say, 90% of these staff, because they've all got different needs over the decades, whether it be women that have just had a child and want to come back to work but can't quite balance that. So we've got all sorts where we allow them, because they've asked to do it, work of a night and of a weekend and work remotely rather than being in the office. Time off, paid time off, change the working weeks in terms of what days they do. And not just women, that goes for men as well. And I think this was pre-COVID, obviously, but COVID accentuated it really, where it did shift change. And I think people's wants and demands, that actually there's more here and I want a bit more from life as well. And we want to retain talent, going back to Paul's point. To have good people, you've got to be flexible and dynamic. And we feel fortunate enough to be able to not work in a large corporate, that we can make these small changes and create it the way we want to and need to.
Brilliant. Same question to Charlie, if I can. Just how, obviously, you, as you say, you've brought in different structures and different processes to suit, but obviously Intercity is a big business. Are you able to have, say, as from Gareth's perspective, of being able to be individual?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what's important. We've gone from 160 colleagues to nearly 320 in 4 years, and that's been a huge thing for us to deal with. But I'll give you an example, and I'm being absolutely candid with you here. I'm learning. We're all learning on this journey, and it's okay, as Gareth said, to be not okay. So we've just had we promoted Christina, who was a young lady who'd come through the ranks. I appointed her to the board 4 years ago. She's just gone off and had a baby. She's on maternity leave at the moment. Our chief people officer now, Mel Osborne's come in. She's took the role on mat leave, while she was on mat leave, as a temporary situation. But she really impressed us. Christina has kept in touch. She's had the Keep in Touch days, and it's been great for me. Anyway, Christina came and approached me and said, Charlie, I really want to come back, but I'm not sure I want to come back full time. But is that going to affect my position on the board? And at first you think, oh, not sure that's going to work. And I thought, hold on, we can make this work. She's a real talent. So between us, we've designed the role, and she's coming back now on the board for just 3 days a week, part-time. So we're going to go into this full-hearted. And why is that important? Well, it's important for us. We've got so many talented females, there's probably 30 or 40 here today, that are coming through the ranks. I want them to think, do you know what? I can do whatever I want with this business and my family, and there's a role for me to play. And that's giving that pathway and that role model. And we've set the scene. So, and it felt a bit awkward thinking, can we make this work? But to Paul's point, you've just got to make it happen. And that's down to us as leaders, really, to sort of break the mold sometimes when it's right to break the mold, not just break the mold for breaking the mold's sake. But she's such a talent, Christina. 3 days a week suits her. We'll make it suit us. And we've now got a new model. So, as an example of how we can do it.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you. And Afiya, I'll come back to you, please. Obviously, you know it from an employment law perspective, let's say, but what does work-life balance mean to you? Obviously, as a barrister, you're self-employed. Yeah. Obviously, work under number 5. Like, do they implement things for you to follow, or is it completely a self-balance element for you?
Great question. I think when you're self-employed, there's an extra level, because you're thinking, if I'm not working, I'm not getting paid. And what I've found is I've had to really boundary my time and be intentional about doing that. So the switching off the emails is key. Also, I do Zumba every Wednesday. I don't compromise on that because I have to dance. And so just having an outlet has really helped, and having something that's in the diary every single week, getting that routine, getting those habits in is key. I've also found that actually understanding what work-life balance really is has helped. So my mum and I co-founded an organisation called She Leads for Legacy to help Black women thrive in the workplace. And actually, through running events, I've learned more about work-life balance, and I didn't know that. So the benefit of sleep, the benefit of nutrition, basic things like a third of our lives is sleeping. And my sleeping habits were so poor. And I was seeing it affect my mental clarity, my productivity, just generally waking up quite grouchy. And so actually seeking out knowledge, being intentional about getting into spaces like places like this where I can learn about how to better my own work-life balance has also helped. But it takes intention. You have to be proactive. It's your life. You can design it. And then you can do that in community with others.
Just one thing as well, just from a personal experience, that we talk about Zumba, and I still try and play football every Thursday or play golf. Doing those activities really takes your mind off work and some of the pressures and demands of your job. And then all of a sudden, that time away gives you perspective. And Gareth very, very honestly opened up about mental health, and I've had similar issues way back. And I've learned from those. And when you get near the edge of having a real problem, very often it's because you've lost perspective. And that's why I think it really is important to create that structure where you do have downtime. And boy, do I come back then with a lot sharper focus and actually a different way of approaching some of the challenges I've faced. So, I think having those activities and forcing them into your diary and sticking to them like Afiya does is absolutely brilliant, for your business and for your own well-being, but also your own performance back in your job.
One last thing from me would be is understanding yourself is key. So the thing that I did a values session. So my key 3 values are love, adventure and success. And what I do now is I plan activities, whether that be weekly, monthly or yearly, around my 3 values. So I'm consistently feeding my values that's not aligned to, all right, success, yes, for work, but also personally as well. And that can really make a massive difference.
And I'll just kind of highlight, I guess, the work-life balance I do or don't have. We will we'll see. Just maybe because it's relatable to some. I've got all in all, I've had it nearly 13 years. But I 4 months ago had my second baby. Yes, I'm young in terms of getting back to work, but it's when you've got a business, you've got to show up and I've got to support the team. But also, I only do a couple of days a week at the moment, which is also testament to the brilliant team that I do have, which enables me as a business owner to be able to do it. But the one thing I wanted to also highlight is I've only been able to, I guess, show up at work as well as show up at home from my husband's company's structures, let's say. I think they put in, for every male within their company, it's 4 months paternity leave now in certain industries. I mean, it's absolutely bewildering, really. And when you've got somebody like myself that owns a business and maternity leave is non-existent, really, that support to have there was amazing. To be able to feel like I can show up at work and also show up at home, because equally were as important. In that shift of me now having 2 children, I have got to find that Zumba in my week. I either work or I'm with my children, which I love both, but then selfishly I don't have even an hour to switch off. So I need to find my Zumba, basically. I need to figure out when in the week I can find a Zumba. But that's just to see if it's a relatable story, but not many people talk about it. And the reason why I brought these brilliant panelists together, all from different industries, different backgrounds, different leaderships, different perspectives really, and also different personal journeys as well as professional ones. If obviously we're around all day, Gareth's got a shooter. If you have any questions, oh yeah, please do.
I would like to thank Barrister Afiya Amesu, because she mentioned about sleep, which is so important. And I think another factor is information overload. We consume so much at work, during journey, when we come home. So we mentally are always, our headspace is all occupied.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the one thing I would like to add.
Yeah, no, brilliant point. I actually now try and put my phone away an hour before I sleep because I found that my mind was still racing and I wasn't able to sleep as well. It would take me longer to get to sleep because I was still consuming stuff on social media. It definitely is the bedrock. I also think just look at best practice. So if your organisation isn't where you'd like it to be, you can look at what other people are doing and then bring that conversation to your workplace. Number 5 in particular, I'm self-employed, but they have a really great mat leave support system. I've had conversations with colleagues in other sets of chambers. They're now wanting to implement that because we had that conversation. So you can see what other people are doing, see if it works, and then bring that conversation to your organisation and then see if you can implement it there as well.
All right, I'll take that literally. I'll swiftly sit down. No, thank you to all 5 of you. Really, really powerful stuff. I was just wondering, because obviously work-life balance, we've been talking on the basis of actually being employed. I don't know about your personal experience or experience of being employers. What your thoughts or advice would be if anyone is unemployed and looking for work, because that can be quite exhausting, that can be full of anxiety, that can be a bit of a roller coaster, and I've had personal experience of sometimes feeling a bit guilty if more than a day goes by and I've not been, I mean in the past when I was unemployed for a short while. What would your advice or thoughts in general be in terms of trying to achieve that sort of work-life balance when your full-time job is looking for work? Thank you.
It's a brilliant question, and I think I think that actually looking for work and looking for your next career opportunity, I would class that as work. You're not sat there on your backside. You're actually out there actively seeking work. So you sometimes, I think, there's that guilt that I'm not working from the minute you're not working. But actually look at it the other way. The minute you're looking to find a job, you're working. You're really trying to seek that next opportunity. And I think the other thing is, and I've benefited from this massively, is having the support of my wife and my family in everything I do, and being very close and being very open in a relationship that says, and like Gareth said, it's okay to say when you're feeling a bit down or, because very often the strength and wisdom comes from your family when you don't see it. So, class being out of work, day one, I'm working now to find a better time for my family and a better career for me.
We give our panel a round of applause.